So these are really big deal quality of life symptoms that have an impact from hormones, no doubt, but a huge impact from lifestyle too. So those are really important things to talk about.
Today, it's your birthday. Not sure what that means? Let us introduce you to this powerful concept and our community. We are Helene and Christina, and our mission is to empower, teach, and remind women the importance of celebrating themselves. Combined, we have over 35 years' experience as therapists in private practice.
We come to you not as therapists, but rather two women in this life stage with you, your friends. Our podcast promises to talk about the hard or uncomfortable topics in a way to empower you, laugh along the way as part of healing, and find joy in life. What sets us apart, you might ask? We leave you with gifts with each episode. Now that we're friends, let's make this official. We would love to help start your Thursday mornings, so make sure you follow the show wherever you listen and sign up for our free newsletter at yourbirthdaypodcast.com to receive the episode in your inbox weekly.
Friends, we are so honored you are here today. It tells us and validates yourself that learning and hearing more about your life and body transition stages are important to you. This is an episode to share with your girlfriends, sisters, sister-in-laws, and all the women in your life as soon as it ends. Women are speaking up and loudly to be heard and seen on this topic when a decade ago it was much more silent. Helene has been thrown into menopause with chemotherapy 9 years ago, and I believe I'm in the perimenopause train now, or at least avoiding that I might be in menopause. We are here today with an expert in our field of menopause, Dr. Erin Ward. Dr. Ward is the owner and lead physician of Coastal Women's Wellness in Fort Myers, Florida. She is passionate about women's health during all aspects of life, our body cycle, and its transitions. She is one of us, friends. She values self-care, investing in your personal interests, and leaning in deep to relationships and family. She truly wants all of us to have an It's Your Birthday life.
As you grab your beverage of choice and get cozy, Christina and I need to express the information shared in this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only, and it is not intended as medical advice. While our guest is a licensed gynecologist, the content discussed should not be used to diagnose, treat, or replace personalized medical care. Please consult with your healthcare provider for any concerns or decisions related to your health, hormones, or menopause journey. Every single body is unique, and you, with your doctor, know you best. Okay, now that we got that disclaimer on the back end, let's get started with our questions. Before we even started, we were wondering, do we have enough time? And we promised each other, or actually the three of us talked about it, if we needed a part two, our guest was more than willing to accommodate that. So welcome and hello, Dr. Ward. Thank you so much for gifting us with your time today. Before we dive in with all of the questions, please share with our audience a bit about yourself, who you are, what lights you up, and what led to you choosing a career in women's health, particularly having an interest in menopause health.
Hi. Yes, thank you so much, Helene and Christina, for having me on your show today. I am really excited to be here, and I loved having the opportunity to share some real and encouraging words on this topic. So my name is Erin Ward. I go by Kiki, actually a lifelong nickname that I've had, and I am a physician. I am dually board certified actually in obstetrics and gynecology as well as obesity medicine, and I am a Menopause Society certified practitioner. So that is my medical background. I am married to who I consider to be the best human on earth, Bryce. And we have been together for 17 years. We have 3 children who are currently 11, 9, and almost 6. And Bryce works as a neonatologist, so he's a physician as well over at Golisano Children's Hospital. And many of my patients have spoken to him on the phone because he graciously volunteers his time also at Coastal, answering phones, scheduling, clinical coordination, fixing the shredder, all of the things. And so what is such a great human.
I have a husband like that too.
It's very valuable. So what really lights me up I would say is seeing people have breakthrough moments and accomplishing things that they really never thought was possible, and just feeling empowered to make a change in their lives. I love that. So that definitely affects me in patient care and personal life, my children's lives, everything like that is truly what lights me up. And as far as a career in women's health, this was really a combination of personal experience and exposure, clinical exposure in medical school. When we got to the clinical rotation years, OBGYN was my first one. So I was pretty hooked from the start. It was just literally never a dull moment. We were delivering babies, doing surgeries in the office with no shortage of a wide variety of problems that could actually be solved, all the way from adolescents to geriatric patients, just no boredom, really, really fascinating stuff, and a good combination of surgery and office. I liked it all. And, personally, like a lot of women in my life and my family were affected by so many things women's health related: ovarian cancer, breast cancer, endometriosis, infertility, severe pregnancy complications, just some big stuff that impacted me personally to give a passion. And I even remember myself having just a terrible experience with the relaying of medical results and how poorly done it was. And with all of that, I just thought we really need to do better by women. So that gave me some passion for the field. And then getting into this, the menopause aspect of life, was an evolution. Like my first private practice in South Carolina we just had a very young cohort of women. So there was not a lot of peri and postmenopausal care happening. When I moved to Florida with a very changing demographic, I realized quickly that I was fairly ill equipped myself to deal with this stage of life. And despite the long and grueling hours that go into OBGYN training, it's something missing. It's still to this day very relatively missing from our training. So that bothered me. I wanted to be better equipped to deal with it. And it was very unsettling to see what has kind of happened as a result of this lack of knowledge and time to address is something of a fringe movement where there is no shortage of people out there trying to take advantage of women in this vulnerable state, selling different concepts and supplements and misinformation. And so that really made me want to go all in these last several years on trying to better educate myself on this topic to bring some evidence-based and real help to women in this arena.
I love that. That just speaks to my heart. I was telling Helene this morning, I was scrolling through our social and across came like an ad of a nurse practitioner saying, "I'm so sick of seeing women with fat, round faces not realizing they're in perimenopause." And I was like, what? Like it was so insulting. And so I think how many times in all of our offices do we have people come in and go, "I heard on TikTok."
Yeah,
And look, Dr. TikTok is the equivalent to Dr. Google. They suck.
absolutely. And I love when women come in and they just straight up tell me what they saw on TikTok, Google, what their great aunt told them, any of it. I want to hear it all with love and no judgment, because I understand women are getting that information from every angle and they're just trying to make sense of it. And that's why I do consult specifically to this to help them make sense of all the noise.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, and it's the great marketing right now. So, can you explain to us exactly what is happening in the body when somebody is going through menopause and like in an empowering way? We hear all this scary information, or our bodies are falling apart, our bodies are shutting down, and we really want you to explain it to us in a way that we feel empowered and able.
Yes, absolutely. So menopause really it's a completely natural component of aging. It really just marks the end of the reproductive years, and it is not a disease. It is really the permanent cessation or end of menses, which are periods. And that happens due to the loss of ovarian follicular function. And this happens at a wide variety of ages between 40 and 58. About 90% are going to go through it between ages 45 to 55, with the average age being 51. But that's still a wide range. And really, what's happening in the body during this time from the onset of puberty, a woman is born with 1 to 2 million eggs or oocytes. By the time we hit puberty, we're already down to about 400 or 500,000. And then throughout the reproductive years, it feels like a blip on the screen. You're only going to actually release and ovulate about 400 to 500 eggs. The rest are going to naturally die off in a completely natural, normal process of atresia, apoptosis. So during all of those reproductive years, there's a very well-coordinated process trying to happen where the pituitary gland in the brain is releasing a hormone chemical signal down to the ovaries, follicle stimulating hormone, FSH, and it's telling the ovaries to recruit follicles to release that egg so that we can have our surge of estrogen, progesterone, the whole coordinated process. And as we get closer to the end of those reproductive years, in perimenopause, that brain signal is really having to rev it up to try to get that engine started, to work harder to recruit follicles because the amount of quality eggs we have left is going down and down. So it has to work harder. And that is why in perimenopause, there are widely fluctuating hormone levels, estrogen and progesterone, and that FSH level, which paints a very confusing picture and leads to symptoms like irregular periods, hot flashes, and a whole host of others that many women listening to this will know all too well. And then what happens by the time we hit that real final end of the periods, there are no eggs left. There is no amount of revving that engine that is going to work. So it naturally then stops. But what happens post menopause is really this complex picture of, the ovaries still produce some small but significant amounts of testosterone too. Some of that's converted to estrogen in our peripheral tissues, different forms of estrogen. There's still stuff going on that is all part of the biological process and plan. It's not like everything's just dead and gone and that everything was about the reproductive years. And so it's really just a natural process that is going because of the depletion of eggs that every woman is going to hit if she's lucky enough to reach that point in her life. And it is not the end and not a disease.
Well, I love before Christina shared that oftentimes women can hear a lot of noise, and it doesn't necessarily have to be online. It can even be within like our village circle with women, just hearing different things. And I think, our friends want to give us the best information, but like you said, every woman's experience is different. And because I love the way you said it's kind of like an engine, and I like getting ahead of things rather than either a crash or a crisis. Is there a best time maybe that a woman can start preparing for menopause? And again, that can either be physically or emotionally, because Christina, I love that she shared, it can come from a place of fear where we're all about being empowered. So is there a way that you can start preparing even before your symptoms begin? And do you have some like top tips or recommendations for women who are in this phase of life?
Absolutely. And I'm really so glad you asked that question because it's similar to when women ask me when is the ideal time to bring their daughters for their first gynecology visit. When do you come? And the answer is truly before the need is there and the change that is in question is happening, like about being proactive and planning. And the whole point of that is to get education and preparation for what is to come. So if wondering for daughters and all that, that's really ages 13 to 15, before we're talking about sexual activity and contraception, hopefully, and many other things. But so for menopause, that really means like between ages 35 to 40. That's earlier than most women would think to bring up words like menopause, but that's for the education and getting prepared. And, the reason for that is many. Like you want to start making a plan because we are all trying to pursue a quality health span, which I do think is, a great term to keep in mind. We want quality in these years. And so trying to make a plan for what that looks like for you to be proactive. So that means learning what therapies are available to help with the symptoms of perimenopause, which may be right around the corner so that it's not quite as scary because you've already talked about it. You know what was going to come, so it doesn't catch you so off guard. Start lifting weights before your muscle mass starts declining at that age right around it. Build healthy nutrition and movement habits then and now before you end up having disrupted sleep, headaches, cravings, insulin resistance, irritability, that all can make it infinitely harder to start healthy habits if you haven't already tried to do that. And then have the discussion early about risk benefits, different routes, different types of hormone therapy with all the noise coming at you, so that when it does hit, you are coming at it you're not in the thick of symptoms where you have a really hard time making a rational decision and not just feeling desperate and reaching for anything. You've already had that informed decision before. And then because if you end up being one of the lucky ones that really doesn't have really bad symptoms at transition, that might that might not have brought you in to see your doctor, but you've already had that education. So you can recall that there were some other significant benefits that might make you personally, individually, consider starting some form of hormone therapy for other reasons.
Mhm.
So we always talk about like information is knowledge, and using your voice and advocating is one of the strongest ways to gain that knowledge. So I think that's what I hear a lot of what you're saying. Like you're empowering women that you can get ahead of it by having open discussion with the people that you choose to be on your like kind of treatment team in this possible upcoming phase, and get the knowledge that might make that transition easier, which again, we don't want to be scary, but more knowledgeable and more coming from a place of knowing rather than noise from the background.
Yes,
I love
exactly.
that.
I love that. So we've kind of talked around it, but Elaine and I are direct communicators. So what are some of the most common misconceptions that you hear about in menopause? Like what comes into your office and you're like, what?
So many, so many. Yes. And that I can just, list some that are really common because there's no shortage of them. But so some that I can't use hormone therapy if I have a family history of breast cancer, family history of heart disease, even a personal history of a clotting related genetic mutation, lots of kind of false total contraindications that women have been told or came in believing. That hormone therapy causes breast cancer, that hormone therapy should be guided solely by a lab value, that, I'll put it in air quotes, bioidentical hormone therapy must come from a custom compounded source or a pellet, and that there's something inherently safer about it without any risk. That hormone therapy has to be something expensive, that you can't get pregnant in perimenopause or at some arbitrary age, or if you are not having regular periods. There's a big one. That you can't get hormone therapy until you've been 12 consecutive months without a period. Not true. That your symptoms can't be due to hormones if you're still menstruating. Also not true. That supplements are a safer alternative to hormone therapy, or that you don't need progesterone, or that testosterone is only a male hormone. Those are all really common recurrent myths that I hear.
That is a lot.
That is a lot. Yeah. And when you think of like how much we're inundated with that kind of information and without knowledge, we're left to try to sift through it and figure out what's true and what isn't. And where's the first place people tend to go? Their girlfriends, their mother, their aunts, their grandmother. And if that's the kind of information they had learned, we continue this unhealthy cycle of passing along misinformation. And so it's so important to, like you said in the beginning, bring this information to you, tell you what you've heard so that you can give truth over fear.
Yes.
And I think also just being aware of the source of where you heard this information and not discounting or disrespecting. Like Christina said, it could be a friend or an aunt. But I'm always an advocate, like you can keep asking the same question over and over again, and then you get to choose your source. So if you heard it, like at a girlfriend brunch, a couple things, and you're like, not really quite sure. I really value these friendships, but something about it inside of me is gnawing that I'm not sure how true this is, or if it's applicable to me, jot a note and bring it up at your next conversation with your physician.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I think this is going to be a big one that you can offer so many gifts to our audience. How can nutrition, movement of the body, and stress management support women during this transition?
Yes, those can all help immensely. They are a huge component that really shouldn't be undercounted. And this was really part of my personal drive to get more education in obesity, nutrition, and lifestyle, to help women from a more holistic and comprehensive approach, because this needs both. So during my training in obesity medicine, for example, to do that board certification, I cannot even tell you how much valuable education and insight I got into just how much sleep, stress in our gut microbiome, which essentially is nutrition, have an impact on our excess weight, energy, and inflammation. And I can tell you the most distressing complaints that I hear from patients coming in to see me for menopause concerns, by and large, tend to be weight gain, fatigue, and brain fog over even the hot flashes. So these are really big deal quality of life symptoms that have an impact from hormones, no doubt, but a huge impact from lifestyle too. So those are really important things to talk about. And even though, people can debate, oh, some studies show telling women exercise and sleep, but that's going to solve their hot flashes. The studies don't support that. Okay, well, that's because we're comparing them to highly effective pharmacologic therapy such as estrogen that is going to be more effective in treating hot flashes per se. But there's still a whole host of other huge health benefits from lifestyle. And these things, exercise, sleep, stress reduction, they still have a really significant impact on your general health. So they can absolutely make the symptoms more manageable. And as we know, there's many symptoms beyond just hot flashes. And then there's other really important parts of this, like age-related muscle mass decline, age-related bone density decline. These things will happen. And if we don't specifically target lifestyle strategies to help combat what we can in that, then we're really missing out. So like strength training specifically, it's so important for this, in addition to regular daily walking, having a nutrient dense diet that's got plenty of calcium, vitamin D, other vitamins and minerals. That is going to help you and be way more crucial, far better than taking a whole loading up on a ton of supplements. So these things really make a difference. And then you also have to consider that hormonally, biologically, what is happening to women and men, but affects women even more because of the hormone component also in midlife, is that we suddenly start really seeing a rise in our risk of prediabetes, insulin resistance, elevated cholesterol, high blood pressure. I see so many women that feel like 50 hit and they just fell apart. And they're so confused because it's like, I haven't changed anything. Some have even doubled down on their good efforts, lifestyle wise, to improve their health, and then watch their numbers go in the wrong direction. And are often met, unfortunately, in the modern medical society, quick visits, primary care, with an assumption about their habits that's not accurate. But these things are really happening, that the risk of high blood pressure, high cholesterol, insulin resistance go up because of those hormone changes in age. And we really have to work harder to fight against it with lifestyle changes.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, but if you don't feel comfortable answering, I completely respect that. So I will see that I've heard that in even some of my girlfriends who have what we would say is a very healthy lifestyle. They eat well, they've invested in strength training, like all the things, and then their cholesterol does go up and they feel a sense of shame. So if that is happening within their numbers, and again, we'll take their word that they're doing all the things to not contribute that, and there's not like a family history, and the number goes up, what is something that you might encourage them in terms of language to say to their doctor to have a more curious aspect of asking about it rather than just accepting it?
I think it's important, really, in all aspects of this, that women are advocating for themselves. So, if you were met, say, in your primary care visit with just hey, your cholesterol went up, we have to do something about this, even often suggesting a statin therapy, which absolutely has a role, but to make sure that your doctor understands what you have been doing in the background lifestyle wise, so that there's not just false assumptions that you're suddenly eating more fast food and eating more fried food and that you're doing something else to cause this. Every doctor, gynecology, general internal medicine, should understand that the specific hormone changes that happen in women are actually driving this trend towards elevated cholesterol. Like we have known this, that this happens to women specifically. We, compared to men in the premenopausal years, generally have a lower risk of cardiovascular disease, just by and large, all things being equal, in large part because of our circulating estrogen levels. So this is a real impact if you can just make sure that you don't miss the opportunity to let your doctor know as that's coming up that, hey, I want you to know I have not changed anything with my lifestyle. No one's perfect, but laying out exactly what you do and say, is there anything else hormone wise you think that could be going on? Just to kind of get a feel for how in tune your provider is with understanding what happens at this stage of life.
And I think that's a great gift to our audience.
Yeah.
If our audience is familiar with us, Christina and I talk often about in some of the episodes that you invite people to be at your table, and not everyone deserves a seat. They're not that close enough to you, boundary wise, whatever that looks like. But if you're inviting a provider to be at your table, you have to feel comfortable enough and also give them the benefit of the doubt that they will listen and you advocate and you can educate your provider. Like, that is a mic drop gift from Dr. Ward. You have the opportunity and the authority to educate and to teach them a piece about you that maybe they don't know just by looking at numbers. So I love that gift, and I hope that really hones in with a lot of our people who may cautiously, muzzle themselves and not say anything because they feel like they don't, whatever, have the same education, or they just have been taught not to speak up. But you know your body well, and they can only partner with you when you educate them with maybe the pieces they don't know what's happening outside of those four walls of that appointment. So thank you so much
Yes.
for that.
I think that's huge because, the reality is, as providers, we are only as good as the information we have. And so, if our patients aren't telling us things, how are we supposed to know? We're not mind readers. We don't have tarot cards. There's not like some magic thing that we can x ray and see everything going on in your body all the time and follow you 24/7. So, it absolutely takes using your voice in the medical office so that your doctor can help you. And I love that other part of it. If you're not feeling heard and you're not feeling honored with what you're experiencing, it's okay to find a different provider. I think people
Yes.
feel like I can't because of my insurance, or I can't because I've seen this doctor forever, or I can't because everyone in my family sees this doctor. No, you need to find the right person for you. And even as a psychologist, I say to people all the time, like, I'm not the right fit for everybody. And if you don't feel like we're going to click, it's more important for me that you have the right provider, and I will happily refer you. I am not hurt or offended, and my feelings aren't really part of this anyway, but if that's your concern. And so I think that's huge, to empower women to use their voice with their providers, make sure that their provider has the information they need. And if you still don't feel like your needs are being met, figure out where they will.
Yes. Agree.
It's huge. Question here is, how can we start changing the narrative around menopause from one of loss and grief to one of transformation and empowerment?
That is also a great question because I agree. A lot of it is just the negative doom and gloom side. So I think recognizing that menopause it's not just an end. It's really a beginning to the next chapter, or like we said earlier, the next phase of the reproductive cycle. I think it would help if we try to steer away from certain nomenclature like even hormone replacement therapy, which it implies there's an abnormal deficiency that you need to correct. And this is hard because hormone replacement therapy, or HRT, that has been so well known amongst the lay public and physicians and providers for so long. I myself still use it often in the office just for the sake of not getting confused blank stares back. But I do think that if we could get to a point where we simply call this hormone therapy, we're not replacing something that broke in a way that wasn't supposed to happen. We're using highly effective therapy to treat bothersome symptoms for quality of life. And it would also normalize all these women having perimenopausal symptoms that now we know very well you don't need to wait till you've gone 12 whole months without a period before you start getting any relief and not getting dismissed. So just kind of referring to it as hormone therapy, and also recognizing that the it it kind of turns this state turns our hormone status into something more of a blank slate as opposed to the weird but beautiful, widely fluctuating menstrual cycle years where things are up and down. And in those years, things like irregular periods, PMS, PCOS, menstrual migraines, you often feel like the only way to tamp down those fluctuations is with birth control. And it does a great job in many of those situations, but that completely quiets the ovarian follicles. And it feels very limited to a lot of women and providers alike that's what we're working with. And then you get to the state after menopause where the ovaries are not doing all of that in the background. And now you can work with 100 different recipes to optimize what is needed based on a woman's individual symptoms and history without worrying about what your ovaries are going to decide to do that day all on their own in the background. So if you kind of view it more as this blank canvas that you are just ready to kind of make this phase your own, when your ovaries have reached a new, natural, more steady declined state, you can really work with that and make it what you want it to be. And then you just think of things like, strength training, for example, more in the context of transformation. Like this used to be avoided for fear of bulking up. And in reality, that led to weight gain and frailty in women. Like we should really use this whole thing as an opportunity of transformation rather than just lay down and take it.
Mm-hmm.
We warned you guys that Dr. Ward was one of us. So she is really telling you how when things looked really like sad and hopeless and maybe places of dread, that there could be hope. And other things I think she's sprinkling in, but I'm going to ask you more directly, is that there can be gifts in menopause, which I'm struggling to say because I think I'm going to get like a lot of backlash from it. But there are, and I know, like, depending on when Christy and I do like our like gifts on the couch, if it's mine up, like I can definitely share some of my own personal gifts I received from it. But in your experience, what do you see are some of the unexpected gifts that menopause can bring?
Yes, I agree. There truly are hidden gifts, if you only take the time to look for them and you focus more on the positives than the negatives. I mean, for one, there are no more periods. This is kind of amazing. Like we just spent 30 to 40 years bleeding every single month. Like, let's take all our tampons and pads and cups and all the things and put them in a bonfire and have a party. Except they're actually really expensive. So maybe just give them to your daughter or your friend and pay it forward. But that's a really big deal that you don't have to worry about anymore. You don't have to worry about getting pregnant anymore. Like you also spend all of those years kind of anxiously awaiting the next cycle to come, make sure we're okay if that wasn't the plan that month. Worrying about everything you do, from a medicine you take, a supplement you take, an activity you do. Is this going to be okay if I get pregnant? Like just take that worry off your shoulders because Lord knows we have 1,000 other things to worry about. So, not bleeding, not worrying about pregnancy or what medications you're taking that could affect that. And then I also think a gift is when you just think of the whole timing of what's happening here, a lot of women at this phase are becoming empty nesters for the first time, or they may at least be reaching a state at which their children are more self-sufficient. And that adult and personal time that you've been craving for so many years has arrived to really take advantage of that time for some very overdue self-care that has been put on the back burner for a long time to actively pursue your own health rather than, just taking care of your children's health and others, and invest that back into your spousal relationship. Try to actively pursue a great relationship, an exceptional sex life. Like there's endless possibilities at this stage of life that actually can be gifts. And then just think back to that blank canvas concept where now we've reached a new steady state level of hormones. It's a blank slate and we can kind of design this phase of our life how we want it.
Wow. Last question. What message would you love every woman entering menopause to hear loud and clear?
I think mainly that this is not the end, but rather the beginning of a really great opportunity, and that you are so much more than a womb or a reproductive machine. That was never what defined your worth. And just knowing that there are so many options to feel better that are out there, and no matter what your personal clinical history background is, it's never an absolute no. It may be a no, but every woman deserves to at least have the conversation about what symptoms she's feeling, which ones may be related to hormones, what therapies are options for her, risk and benefits, including the risk of not taking something. So there are a lot of ways to feel better. And everyone, at least at a minimum, deserves to have a real conversation about it.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your wisdom. And I think putting a lot of people's minds at ease and building confidence. I mean, I have walked into menopause seeing it as like freedom. That's what I see it as, like to not always have to carry a tampon in my purse, to not always have to
Absolutely.
calculate, keep that app, documenting, all that stuff is beautiful. And so, I mean, you don't have to time your life. How many women come in and they're like, can I just skip that white placebo week? Because I'm going on vacation. Like, all that crap is gone. Like, you don't have to think about that anymore. You don't have to think about when you're going to go in and have your ID changed or, all of that. Like, it's over. You're free, which is beautiful. And come some symptoms, but it sounds like with the right care, they can be managed and helped. And, as we're gaining weight, go see your gynecologist so that you can understand why when nothing else has changed. So I love that. Friends, you have received some really powerful gifts today. We've been given so much wealth of information, empowering messages with Dr. Ward. So thank you. This is one that I will definitely have to repeat, especially because I believe I'm in the very beginning, or at least in denial. But now I feel more empowered to ask the questions I need to. So we know other women need to hear this. Be their friend and share it with others. Hang out with us on social. Hang out with us on our Gifts from the Couch, which Helene is always good to do on Monday, and I never am. And Dr. Ward, we are so grateful to have spent this time with you today. We know the value that our listeners are going to receive and the many gifts. But before we go, can you share with our audience how and where they can get in touch with you? So if they are looking for a doctor similar to yourself who is kind, patient-centered, we would love them to be able to find you.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for asking. So my practice is in Fort Myers. It's called Coastal Women's Wellness. So there's information about the services we provide and how to schedule an appointment at www.coastalwomenswellness.com. The email address there, info@coastalwomenswellness.com. That's monitored by a small number of people, including myself. So you can always ask questions there. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Coastal Women's Wellness. And hopefully we'll be putting out some more content so we can share this education and gifts and reach more audience.
Awesome. Thank you. Until next week, friends, happy birthday.